everyone, I'm Kristen, and in this video I'll be unboxing and taking a closer look at the Birdfy Smart Bird House. For a little while now I've been wanting to find a solution on how to get a camera inside of a nesting box so that I can more closely monitor my birds while they're nesting without disturbing them. I don't recall how I first heard about this product, but about a year ago it came to my attention and I thought this might be the solution I've been looking for. So I placed a pre-order online and waited almost a year to get the product. It came a couple months ago, and now that it's finally spring, I can put out these birdhouses and I'm excited to see what happens with my birds. So let's get into it. First, we're going to open the box, see what's inside, and look at how everything fits together. You can see it's a pretty decent sized box. It's fairly large, and this is a heavy unit. When I went on their website to find out exactly how heavy the birdhouse was, it didn't have any weight to it. It was blank. So I can't tell you exactly how much it weighs, but it is a heavy birdhouse. So a nice sturdy box is important. Okay, so the first thing I see when I open the box is an instruction booklet, which I love because nowadays a lot of products that you get have digital instructions, and I do love a brief, small paper manual that I can quickly reference without pulling something up on my phone and having to flip through a whole bunch of pages. So I really do like that they have a short, relatively short manual here with all the key information that you need to know right off the bat. So aside from the manual, we have some packaging. The other thing I was really impressed with is they thought of a great way to get the nesting box out of the cardboard box that it comes in. You don't want your customers tipping a box over with contents like this and stuff inside like cameras that could be damaged if it were dropped. So finding a really neat and tidy solution for getting the birdhouse and the camera and all the components out of the box without destroying anything was, I thought, really, really well planned. Another thing to note is, packaging these days is kind of like an experience, and this is sort of reminiscent on some of the brands that provide those really good user experiences when it comes to unboxing product. It's a very, very neatly packaged, well put together piece of equipment. Okay, so this is the entire contents of the box. I'm just going to put some of the packaging away so that we can take a look. Okay, so we have the birdhouse itself, as you can see. We have a little box here on the top with some hardware, which I'll go into detail about. And then we have another box here on the side, which is housing the second camera. So there's actually two cameras on this birdhouse, which is something I really love about it. There's an exterior camera and an interior camera. And so this box here was protecting the exterior camera. And it also has a piece of webbing so that you can hang the box on a tree. There was another box at the bottom of the package, which contains all the parts needed for the solar panel. So here we have the panel itself, there's an arm, a mount, and some screws. And just to take a closer look at what's in the box that I have here with all the hardware, we have some washers and metal rings to use to mount it on a pole. Okay, so these are the way that you would pole mount it. We have a little screwdriver, which is handy because that's how you have to access some of the parts on the inside. So they've given you a smaller screwdriver in case you don't have that size. There's a couple of hole sizes here, which I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about. There's a variety of screws, little screw package. There's also a reset key. We have the other half of the mounting bracket, and it is a really durable mounting bracket. I really liked the mounting bracket when I first saw it. I thought it was really nicely done, because this is a really heavy box and you're going to need a very sturdy way of mounting it. We also have a USB cable here for charging the camera, a little template for mounting the bracket, as well as there's an arm here, and I'm going to confess that I have no idea what this arm is for. I have tried to figure out what it's for. I've seen these before attached to cameras and just have a more flexible way of mounting it, but to be perfectly honest, I don't know what purpose it serves with this birdhouse. It might be so that you have another way to mount the solar panel, but to be honest with you, I really haven't figured that out yet. So anyway, you get an extra arm, which is nice for something. Now I want to take a look inside the box so that you can see some of the components that aren't really obvious from opening the package. Okay, so in here we have another camera set up right here, as well as the battery and the unit that a memory card would go into and that the cameras actually plug into. So there's an antenna, as you can see, to get better reception for the unit. So a few components on the inside. There's also a piece of acrylic right here when you open the door, which is great. I'll explain what that does later on in the video. As well as there's a nest lift, which is really great in here. And you can't see it, but there is also a guard on the entrance hole. It's actually underneath. So they place it underneath so it's not as obvious, I think, so that it doesn't take away from the visual appearance of the box on the outside, so that everything looks like it's bamboo rather than having sort of a different material around the nest hole. Let's take a closer look at the external features of the box, as well as the different ways to mount it. For the materials, the box is primarily made out of two materials, bamboo, as well as FSC certified wood, which I was really happy to see. I've never offered a birdhouse before that's made of bamboo. Although I love that it's a rot resistant material, I am interested to see how the birds respond to this new material. I noticed that the bamboo walls were a little bit on the thin side. So typically for a birdhouse, we're looking for walls with a thickness of about 3/4 of an inch, and these bamboo walls are 1/2 inch thick. So I am a little concerned that those walls may not provide the insulation from the heat and cold needed. This box has a very modern, chic, pleasing design, and in part that's due to this accent wall, which is very unique. However, typically we don't want to put dark colors, particularly black, on a birdhouse. And the reason for that is, of course, they're prone to attracting more sun, which could result in the internal temperature of the house being a little too high for those nestlings. Now there is ventilation, which is great. That's going to allow some of that hot air to escape. So under the black panel, we have a secondary roof, and this roof has lots of different ventilation holes. So there's some corner cutouts as well as just regular holes throughout the top bamboo panel, which was great to see. There's also drainage holes at the bottom, so that's great. That'll allow any rain that gets into the box to escape. However, there is no real substantial roof on this box that offers protection for the entrance hole. And that's a little bit disappointing. Typically, I love a generous roof on a nesting box because it's going to help to keep rain out of the entrance hole. So I am a little concerned that without that extra protection, the baby birds are going to get a little wet. Now there is the drainage in case they do, but it would have been nice to see some kind of a covering over top of the entrance hole to provide protection from the rain. I want to show you how the door maneuvers because it's very unique. So it opens with a magnetic lock. So there's a magnet right here, and it actually opens 130 degrees. So that's a really nice feature because it allows for super easy cleaning. And it also is nice that they've put the hinge where it is on the bottom instead of on the top, because there's lots of equipment that you need to access at the top. And if the hinge was at the top rather than the bottom, I feel that the panel would get in the way. So it's nice that they've thought about that, and that the box opens this way so that you can easily access the components on the inside without having to fiddle around with the door. However, I'm not too crazy on the magnetic latch. I think what I might do is add a little lock on the side here, because if this box was mounted in a place like on a tree, we do have to think about predators. Raccoons, weasels, and other animals do want to get in, and baby birds and eggs are easy prey. So we have to think about those things, and it takes almost no effort to pop the door off. That magnet's just not too strong, and I found this one's even looser than this box is. So that's a big concern for me. I wouldn't want this door popping open with a curious raccoon that wants to get into the box. They would have no problem opening this. Even if there was a good wind, I would worry that the magnet may not hold. So I think I will be putting on a bracket just to keep the box locked when I don't need to access it for cleaning and such. It is a heavy birdhouse. We already talked about that. I'm not exactly sure how heavy it is, but it's heavy. And so what that means is we have to have a really sturdy way of mounting it. And so there are a couple different options that come with the box. It's nice that they do include the accessories. However, I'm going to show you a third option. Two different options come with the house, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So first off, we have this bracket, and the bracket is very durable. It's made of a really hard metal, so I think that it does have the oomph behind it to support a birdhouse of this weight. So I'm not too concerned about the bracket actually being able to hold the birdhouse. I am a little bit concerned with the method they've offered mounting it on a tree. So for some birds, they do prefer to nest in trees, and trees are the best places for a birdhouse to be mounted for those species. However, we typically mount a birdhouse in a tree in a way that offers a screw at the top and a screw at the bottom to provide stability. Stability is really important when you're mounting a birdhouse, because you don't want those baby birds jostling around in a strong wind or when the tree is moving around a little bit. And I'm not sure that this strap offers the durability needed. So the way the strap works is you take the bracket and you loop the strap through, and then you attach this part to the tree. And it does have a little ratchet type setup that you can that will grip onto the other end of the webbing and hold it really tight. But I do worry when we get rain and the strap dries out, and we have different seasons, different temperatures, we have tree growth. I'm not sure that this strap is going to cut it. This strapping is, meant to be a little bit flexible. It's meant to have a little bit of give, and I do worry that it's not going to be as sturdy as what is needed for the baby birds, that it's going to move around just a bit too much. Anyways, after you put the strap on the tree, then you fit the brackets into each other like so. So I'm not sure I would recommend putting this birdhouse in a tree based on this strapping that's provided. I don't think it's the best suited birdhouse for a tree mounting. So let's look at some of the other ways that you can mount it. You can use the plate and mount it directly to a building, for example. It does come with really generous screws. I wouldn't directly mount it to a tree using the screws, because the screws are very long and you might do damage to your tree. So just something to think about. But if you wanted to mount it to a building, and in some cases you might want to, then you can mount the plate directly to the building, and then again it's going to fit really nicely into the birdhouse. Okay, so it just fits in like that and locks together. They also provide some hose clamps. So this would be if you're pole mounting it. So again, the hose clamps, you would take this thumb screw, or thumb screw would be the word. Take that off, and you loop the hose clamp to the bracket, and again, you're hanging it via the bracket. So the bracket is on the hose clamp and that's attached to a pole, and then it also fits into the box, something like that. Okay, now there's no that would be a sufficient way, I think, to mount it. However, this is assuming you're going to use a bigger diameter pole, and those tend to be a little bit on the slippery side, so you do have to think about how tight this is going to be and if it's going to fit tight enough that it's not going to move down the pole gradually. There's also something else you need to think about, and I've touched on this already, and that is predators. When we're thinking about bird families, it's really important to keep predators out of a birdhouse. And hey, when you are investing in a smart birdhouse, you know, these things aren't cheap, and there is items inside like cameras and batteries that I wouldn't want a raccoon or something getting into. So you want to think about the investment in a good pole system that is going to keep your birdhouse mounted properly for the birds and also keep the critters out. And so I will be using the Wild Birds Unlimited Advanced Pole System to mount my Birdfy Smart Bird House. So it's really easy to mount it using the APS pole. All I'm using is the combo flange. Okay, this went really nicely into the box. It fits perfectly on the pole with a snap button that you can easily push down and pop that birdhouse off when you need to clean it out at the end of the season. So I love the combo flange. It's actually how I mount all of my birdhouses that I pole mount. It works really, really well, and it is strong enough to support this heavy birdhouse. So it's going to be nice and sturdy and provide the stability that the bird family needs to not shake around in the wind. And I'm going to put a baffle on it. I'm going to put a raccoon baffle on there. This pole accommodates the Wild Birds Unlimited raccoon baffle, and that is going to keep the critters out. So I know my bird family is going to be safe, and I also know that I don't have to worry about the cameras being damaged by predators as they enter the box. I want to take a closer look at the entrance hole, as this is one of the most important features on a nest box. It determines which birds can get in and use the nest box. The Birdfy Smart Bird House comes with 3 different sized predator guards, and these serve 2 different roles. First, they allow you to include or exclude different species, which is handy if you're trying to keep out house sparrows or starlings. Second, predator guards provide a little bit more protection from squirrels. Squirrels are really well known for chewing an entrance hole of a nest box to make it bigger so that they can get inside the nest box and use it themselves. And the idea is, by providing a little bit of extra protection around the nest entrance, that squirrels will be discouraged from wanting to chew it because it's just too much work. There's also a metal predator guard that you can't see that's actually in between this predator guard here, the bamboo one, and the bamboo wall. So there is a metal one in there, and that provides more protection against squirrels chewing and making that entrance hole bigger. You really do need something that is either metal or slate to really stop them from making that entrance hole bigger. Wood is discouraging, and I'm sure the bamboo is quite hard, so it would be discouraging to squirrels as well, but it's not 100% going to keep them out of the box. So it's nice to see that they did include that metal plate. I wanted to talk about the hole size on these predator guards because it is something that I was a little disappointed in. So first of all, the default sized predator guard that comes on the outside of the box is 1.5 inch, and that's perfect. That's the size I'm going to use because it will allow eastern bluebirds and tree swallows to enter the box, as well as chickadees, and that's who I'm hoping to attract. However, these 2 predator guards came in some unusual sizes. So the small one is 0.9 of an inch, which is very odd because no birds in North America that I'm aware of will use this hole size. So 1 inch is usually the smallest hole size out there, and that accommodates birds like wrens or pygmy nuthatches. But this is just a little bit too small. And on the company's website, they do advertise this whole size for wrens. And I do disagree with that. I think it's just a little bit too small to allow wrens and other smaller birds to enter the house. So this is disappointing because it could be a birdhouse that wrens do enjoy using if you have them in your area. So it's disappointing that they can't be accommodated through that predator guard size. The other predator guard size is 2 inches, which is a very, very strange size because it's going to allow a lot of things into the house that you may not want in there. So first of all, I couldn't find any birds in my area that like a 2-inch hole size. So that was really odd and disappointing. And in fact, most of the birds in North America do not need a 2-inch hole size. The ones that do are some of the smaller owls, some of the pygmy owls and elf owls that we don't have anywhere near us. So this is not a hole size that I would be able to use. And it would actually be more detrimental. So this hole size will allow starlings in. So that is a bird that I definitely want to exclude. So that's disappointing. And it would also probably allow red squirrels, which we do have in our area. So this is not very practical to be used in my area. And actually, neither of these, I would argue, are very practical for North America. And it was disappointing to see on their website that they recommended the 2-inch hole size for house finches, which don't even use nesting boxes. So they had house finch listed as, I think, the only bird that I saw on there that would use the 2-inch hole, and house finches don't even use nesting boxes. So that was a little odd and very disappointing. They would have been better off if they made 2 different size predator guards that were 1 1/8 of an inch and 1 1/4 of an inch. People would get a lot more use out of it because we could accommodate birds like nuthatches, the wrens, the chickadees a little bit more comfortably. Now those birds can use the 1 1/2 inch hole size, but they may not want to. Birds can be a little bit picky when it comes to entrance hole sizes. So that is a disappointment. Let's talk about the dimensions of the box. So the one thing I was really happy about, because I do want to target bluebirds, tree swallows, and chickadees with this box, is that the depth and the other dimensions were perfect for those birds. So we have a house that's 9 inches long, and we have a width and a depth of 5.5 and 6 inches. So that's perfect for our bluebirds and tree swallows and chickadees. So if those are birds that you're interested in attracting, this house is going to be perfect for them. It's got very generous spacing. Let's turn our attention to the inside of the box so we can talk a little bit more about the components on the inside. So we talked about the magnet already. I do want to point out that there is a nestling ladder on the inside. Hopefully you can see it there. So that's great because bamboo is actually quite a slick material. It's very, very smooth, and I worry that the baby birds would have a lot of trouble getting out of here. So the fact that a nestling ladder is there is going to make it really easy for those baby birds to grip on and climb out of the box. I also really love that they included a lift, a nest lift. So this just raises up the nest off the bottom of the box a little bit. Good for ventilation, and birds seem to really enjoy having a nest lift in there. So that was really nice to see. And then we have this wonderful piece of acrylic, and it's a little bit on the thin side. I would have liked it to be a little thicker, but I think the thin acrylic allows for a little bit more flexibility, so I can understand why they included it like that. And the acrylic is basically to prevent fledglings from being scared out of the box. So if you open the box and you want to monitor your birds, let's say maybe you are monitoring a bluebird trail, for example, and you need to open the box to do your monitoring, even though there is a camera, you still might need to open the box. This is going to prevent any of the babies from falling out or fledging out the side of the house when they get big enough to do so if you open the side of the box. So I do like that. It's a precaution, which is really, really nice. That's going to keep the birds nice and safe, and no concerns if you do need to check on the inside of the box. And then I did point out already that we have this antenna, and we have the battery pack and one of the cameras. I want to take a closer look at setting up the box because there's a few things we need to do before we can put it out for our birds. first, I want to show you how to change the predator guard covering the entrance hole in the event you want to do that. So to do it, we're going to open up the side panel here. We have to get a few things out of the way, the antenna, some of the cords that are attached to the battery and the camera, and then push in this little lift that the battery and the camera sit on as far in as you can. And that will allow you to raise up the acrylic a little bit. It just slides up. And then some notches on the inside of the box work in conjunction with these cutouts on the acrylic. So these cutouts on the acrylic make it really easy to just pop it out when they're lined up with these two notches. So on the entrance hole, right outside on the inside of the box, there's 4 screws. So you get your little screwdriver, put it in there, remove the screws, put the new entrance hole predator guard on, replace the screws, and that's how you change it. With the acrylic out, you can also change the height of this nesting shelf. So there's 3 different slots that it fits into in case you want to offer a shorter nest box for some of your birds. That might help the ventilation a little bit, or perhaps you have a bird that requires a different nesting box length that they prefer. So that's the reasons you might want to change that. I'm going to leave it in the default position, and to replace the acrylic, I simply line it up with the slot and then line this side up with the notches. There we go. And ta-da, it just pops back in. I want to replace the antenna here. I like how this antenna, first of all, it's on the outside of the acrylic. Second, I don't think it's too conspicuous. I don't think it's going to bother the birds. So I do like the size and placement of the antenna quite a lot on this birdhouse. The other thing we need to do is charge the battery. So to do that, you can actually leave the battery, which is right here on the inside of the box. You just need to open up this little covering, the flap here that protects the outlets, plug in your charging cord and hook it into an outlet. And you actually have to leave it for upwards of 10 hours to charge. So it does take quite a while. So take that into consideration when you're planning on setting up your birdhouse. So the other thing we have to do is set up the external camera. So the one on the inside is pretty much ready to go, but this one is not ready to go because I'm sure that having it secured this way makes it a lot easier for shipping. So what we want to do is remove the tape that's securing it to the house. We're just going to gently pop it off and rotate it around and pop it back on in place. And if you can see, the camera's right there ready to go. Now it won't stay this way. We actually do have to screw it into the box. So you just remove the cover. There's 4 small screws that come with this that you just need a screwdriver to screw the camera down and into place, and it's ready for use. Not too bad. The other thing we need to do is attach the solar panel. And in terms of where you want to place the solar panel, we want the solar panel to take advantage of the sun. So typically we're placing it in a southern direction or an east direction or southeast. And that happens to be where a lot of birds prefer the entrance hole to face. So in terms of setting up the solar panel, we want to mount it in a way that is taking advantage of the southern direction of the sun or the east direction of the sun, and also allowing for the entrance hole to face that east or southeast direction. So I would like to stay away from putting anything on top of the house, because I've seen so many times parent birds land here. They land here for a break to kind of scope things out before going into the box. And so I don't want to cut off their access from a place that they want to perch. So instead, I would rather mount it on the side as I did with this panel here. So for mounting, you're going to take the flange here. There's some screws that are provided. You want to keep in mind where the slot goes for the cord, because that cord's going to fit right down in that slot. You're going to line it up wherever you want it to be, screw it in place, and attaching it's actually quite easy. You take this piece over top of the bracket arm, And this piece actually screws into the solar panel itself. Okay, so you can screw that in. I'm gonna not screw it in yet so I can show you this. And then it attaches securely to the bracket just by tightening this piece here. And then I do like that this arm moves up and down, so you can adjust the solar panel a little bit, so you can kind of manipulate it and adjust it a little bit for the direction that the sun is hitting the box. In terms of the cord, there's a very, very generous cord that comes with the solar panel, and the way that you fit it into the box is it just fits down one of the ventilation slots and makes its way into the battery. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy to set up that solar panel. I didn't have any problems with it. So that's the setup. I'd also like to dive in a little deeper with the cameras. So one of the things I love about this box is it has 2 cameras. A lot of the smart birdhouses on the market, those that are available, have a camera on the inside of the box, but forget about all the action that happens on the outside of the box. So it's nice to see that this birdhouse features 2 cameras. One on the outside so you don't miss it when the fledglings leave or the parents come to feed, and one on the inside to watch the development of the baby birds. So the cameras are 1080p. They do have 8 times magnification, so you can zoom in nice and close if you want to. And of course, the solar panel keeps the battery on the cameras charged, so hopefully you won't have to charge it. I have no idea how long the battery would last without a solar panel to help recharge it. My one concern would be if this solar panel doesn't cut it, it's not really an option to remove the battery from the house and charge it, because you will be disturbing your nesting birds if they're using the house. So I really am hopeful that this solar panel is going to do its job and keep it charged long enough to enjoy the full nesting process. The other thing I'm not quite sure of yet is the lights on the camera. So birdhouses can be quite dark on the inside. That's one of the issues with putting a camera in a birdhouse. I noticed a bright light that you can turn on, and I guess that's to get color on your video in dark conditions. But I'm not sure how that light would affect the birds. The good news is the app allows you to turn it on and off or set a schedule, which is really nice, but just something to think about. Now, the one thing that I think is going to limit this birdhouse the most is Wi-Fi. So because it is a smart device, it has to be close enough to your Wi-Fi to get a signal so that it can transmit the images and video back to your device. And this is kind of where we hit a crossroads, because many birds are really private. While they're nesting, they want their secrecy, they don't want to be disturbed. And that means that they may not want to nest close to where there's a lot of human traffic or a lot of activity. So if it's beside, for example, the front door of your house, that might be a little too much foot traffic for these guys to feel comfortable nesting. That might be the best place for your router to access the signal from the device, but it's not going to be the best for the birds. So I think this is going to be what is going to be the most challenging of the birdhouse, getting it far enough away that the birds won't be disturbed while still accessing the Wi-Fi needed to transmit the images to your phone. So that is something to think about. Placement is really important, and birds also, they want a specific direction a lot of the time for the box to face, so you have to think about that. And you also have to think about height off the ground too. You want to make sure that you're mounting your birdhouse high enough that the birds you're wanting to attract are going to want to use it. Luckily for me, 5 to 6 feet is perfect for bluebirds or chickadees, so I don't think we're going to have any issues with the pole system. Okay, so with respect to the house and Wi-Fi, I do want to mention too that before installing it, make sure you're on the correct type of Wi-Fi network, which is 2.4 gigahertz. So that is important. That is the Wi-Fi that this house needs. So ensure that you have that prior to putting it out. While the battery for your birdhouse is charging, why not download the Birdfy app to your device and get things started for setup? The app is fairly basic, not a whole lot of bells and whistles, but it's also pretty straightforward and easy to use. To add a new device, go to the top right-hand corner of the screen, click the icon, and follow the prompts. I had no issues adding my birdhouse to my Wi-Fi or my phone. The birdhouse is advertised as no subscription needed, and this is true. They provide you with 30 days of free cloud storage, after which presumably your video clips are erased. But you do have the option to download your clips directly to your phone, and you can also share them with your family and friends. If you wanted to keep your video clips on your cloud storage longer, you can pay for a subscription to do so. The AI is supposed to be able to categorize the video clips. And what I mean by that is it's supposed to be able to recognize when the birds, for example, are building a nest or laying an egg or incubating, or the egg is hatching. And then the app categorizes those videos. So there's different categories such as prelude, nesting, egg laying and incubation, hatching, nesting and fledgling, juvenile and grown-up, and the end. It'll be interesting to see how this compilation comes together, because it's supposed to take all the different clips and compile it into one nesting story. I'm not really sure how I feel about the categories and the way that the videos are sorted, but I've also never used it. So maybe I'm gonna love what the camera puts together. Another question I had was, what happens to your video clips with respect to the compilation if your free storage expires after 30 days? The nesting process can take longer than 30 days, so I'm not really sure what happens with your compilation. Does it just compile the videos from the last 30 days, or does it actually take the full nesting process into account? Those are questions I don't have answers to at this moment because I haven't used this during the nesting season yet. I also found it kind of odd, some of the categories that were listed on the app, like the fledgling category and juvenile category, because once the birds leave the house, technically they're fledglings and they don't come back. So I'm not sure that the video is ever going to capture a juvenile bird. So I'm not sure what that category is or how it fits into the storyline. So we'll see. It's maybe not my favorite thing about the birdhouse, how the videos are categorized, but hopefully I'll be pleasantly surprised after using it. I also do want to point out that because it has two cameras, every time you get a video clip, you actually get two clips. The clip from the inside of the box and the video clip of the outside of the box. And that's pretty neat. I was really happy to see that you get both viewpoints. Because I've never used the Birdfy Smart Bird House before, there's a lot of key questions that I hope to have answers to after the conclusion of the nesting season. First and foremost, will the birds even want to use this nest box? I hope they do, but who knows? The setup of the solar panel and the cameras on the inside may be enough to discourage them. I'm going to put the birdhouses out in replacement of other boxes where I've had bluebirds successfully raise families, as well as chickadees. So I'm hoping just swapping out the boxes and using the same location will encourage the birds to use it a little bit more. I also want to see how the footage is without using the light on the inside of the box. Can it get enough light naturally to get good quality video and color video? I'm not sure it can, so I'm interested to see what happens there. I'm also interested to see if I put the boxes out where I'm hoping they'll go, if it'll have enough Wi-Fi strength to transmit the video. I want to try and keep these birdhouses as far away as I can from our house, from all of our family's foot traffic around the house, from the vehicle traffic, from my bird feeders. And to do that, I'm gonna need to get it a decent distance away from the home. So I'm really hoping that it works with our router and our Wi-Fi despite the distance, but we'll see. I might need to adjust my expectations there or move the birdhouse a little bit closer. I'm also interested to see how the footage comes together. What does it mean if it's only keeping footage for 30 days? It's auto creating a story. So does it only create the story based on those 30 days? Or does it take into account the full nesting period? Is it going to pull in clips that I don't want it to use, like my office footage for the story? Or is it only going to compile the clips of the birds? It'll be really interesting to see how the story comes together. Something else I did want to mention is the company that makes the Birdfy Smart Bird House, Netvue, is I think originally a security camera company, and it looks like they've expanded to attract a new demographic of users for their products. Now, one thing I noticed is there was a lot of incorrect information on their website, and that was disappointing, because as somebody who loves birds, is passionate about birds and wildlife, I would love for the companies that I'm buying products from to have that same passion. And it doesn't quite feel like it's there. This feels more like a company that is a security company first and entering into the bird market. And so that's a little bit disappointing, because some of the information was incorrect, and yeah, the passion just isn't there. So that is something to think about when you're purchasing this product. I'm also curious to see if it was worth it. Was it worth the price tag that comes with this nest box? So that'll be really interesting to answer all of those questions after the nesting season has concluded. Well, there you have it, the Birdfy Smart Bird House. I'm excited to try it, and hopefully I'll get some great footage that I can share with you from this nesting season. That's all for now. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next time.